And welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast, hosted just by myself today, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing our top 10 NFL draft prospects at receiver. So I'm going to be doing what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to go down my list of 10 through 1. And then I'm going to also add my sleeper at the position. This draft, some guy that I think is going to go late day 2 or in day 3. Maybe goes undrafted. We shall see how the NFL draft process works out as we're only, a week and a half, 2 weeks away. Coming to Detroit, obviously, as you can see him, Pistons. I got Spartans represented on the shirt. But yeah, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please make sure to do so. We appreciate all the love and support that we can get. And we're going to be bringing a lot more spring ball action. We're going to be trying to pump out a little bit more of draft content for you. Sorry for the hiatus. Me and Robbie have been trying to be in the works of recording, but he is very busy throughout the spring. So I don't know when you're going to see Mr. Elliott again, but hopefully it's sometime soon. But we're going to get started and rolling on this. And number 11, my sleeper guy is Jaquin Jackson. Jaquin Jackson's a guy that has not been on a lot of people's radars. He popped onto my radar after the Ole Miss game back earlier in the season. He's a guy that is athletically gifted. He's a guy that can catch, make contested catches, a guy that can run routes at all three levels. And that's something that's very important to me. A guy that can do it all, who he might not be a superstar in the league by any means, but he's going to be a guy that can come in, maybe not even in his first season, but sometime in his career, be a guy that comes in and is able to contribute being a number 2 or a number 3. He can line up in the slot or on the outside, in my opinion. He's a nice physical, he's got a good physical size. He's very good athletically. He does all the right things. He's just one of those guys that I feel like can just do it all and make it work enough. He doesn't necessarily exceed at something, but overall, he's a very nice guy and someone that you want on your team if you're going to try to make a run or do something of that nature. At number 10, this is now my top 10 list and how I base my criteria off it. I'm a film guy. Film matters to me the most and how much their game can translate. So that's what matters to me the most for you guys that are like, "Oh, what's your criteria based on this?" It's just my personal judgment. And that's what a lot of these rankings and unless you go by statistics or advanced statistics, while those stats are important, that's not what I care about the most. I care about what you can produce on the field and what you've produced on the field. Now, can a guy like, speaking of last year, can a guy like Jackson Smith-Njigba still be good even though he didn't produce? Yeah, he could, but we know what he was capable of and capable of showing. So that's really what matters to me most, not this fluky dookie or had a big game and didn't really do anything else. I care about what you look like when you run routes and what you were able to produce and how you got those stats, not what was your stats, how you got those stats. Does that kind of make sense? I hope it does. At number 10, I have Javon Baker out of UCF. Javon's one of those guys where he's kind of like Jaquan. He's very similar to Jaquan, I feel like. And I don't think he's going to be a guy that like stands out and I'm trying to go projectability, but also what they could do, how they stack up against the competition. But Javon's one of those guys that I just feel like he's going to work out. He's going to work out. He's going to be a solid receiver. He's going to be a guy he's going to be a guy that he's very athletic. He's going to be a nice deep threat, especially if you put him in the slot, or he's going to be a good guy outside the numbers, I feel like. But he's athletically built enough where he can run those inside routes. And he's very good at intermediate stuff as well. He can make the contested catch. He likes to get physical. And he's good in open space too. If you've watched some of this film, as I'm going to provide some highlights for you guys, this kid's very good. And I really like how he plays. And that's something where I think it's important. I really do think it's important how you play, how you get open, how you run your routes, how you make catches. And I'm just impressed by how this guy does it. He had John Rice Plumlee throwing to him all season. John Rice is going to be one of the best athletes in this draft, but he was their main guy. And he's very gifted and can do a lot of things for you where he might not be the superstar on your team, and that's not his projectability. He's a guy that you want just throwing the football. That's exactly what you want from him. At number 9, I have Lad McConkey. Lad's going to be one of those guys where he's going to need to be more of a system fit rather than just being like, oh, you can put him anywhere at any time. But if you put him in the right system, he's an excellent route runner. Like, that's obviously when it comes to the technicality of route running, like, this guy has very few flaws. He's really good at creating separation, especially in the low and intermediate routes. Deep threat wise, he's not, physically impressing, and he's not, the greatest contested catch guy, but he will get you those if he needs you to. But if you can throw him some like zigs, put him on some double short and intermediate routes, like, this guy's going to be a stud for you. And he's going to be able to play any position that you want him to, whether it's out of the slot. I don't know if he's going to line up too much outside, but especially with this new NFL being more short, gifted, schemed up stuff, like, he's going to be a guy that you can rely on and get 5 catches for like 75 yards and a touchdown. And he's great in the red zone at creating separation too, which is something that is needed. And he might not be able to go get the contested catch, but hey, he might burn that outside linebacker or nickel corner and be able to get you 10 to 15 yards and move the chains. Like, Lad's going to be a very I'm interested to see how he's used, because obviously the big comparison is Hunter Renfro, because stylistically and how they play, that's how they are. That they're literally, one's from the past, one's in the future. Not that Hunter Renfro is like that old, but that's kind of what you mean by it, right? And I think Lad's a very good player. I think he does project well, and I think he's going to have a solid career. At 8, the guy I did a video on, which if you haven't seen that highlight video, I think I did a pretty good job editing it. Keon Coleman. Keon's weird because he's not that fast, and that's things. There's a difference between ACC corners and, you know, NFL corners. There's a big difference. And that's the one thing that concerns me, because he didn't do the greatest job at creating separation. But one thing I will say is he's probably one of the best catchers in this draft. I think it's, or I'm not going to say, I think he's probably, just in terms of pass catching, I think he's number 3 in this draft. He's a really good pass catcher. I mean, if you've watched his highlights, like at Michigan State and at Florida State, he's just been able to catch the ball in a lot of difficult situations in traffic. He's got really good jump and really good bounce. He's long athletically. He's 6'4". The separation thing's the big problem, or he'd be a lot higher, because I think he ran a 4.64 at his combine. And, while that's not slow, like, that's a lot faster than me. In terms of NFL standards, a lot of corners are going to run 4.5, 4.4, 4.3s. Route running wise, like, he's not the most technically sound. While he is good at running routes, uh, he's not the most technically sound. He's not a guy that has a quick burst of acceleration either, but I think he will work out. I think he also being developed by NFL trainers and just getting used to the system. Like, I mean, you only got more to go up, especially in your young 20s to mid and later 20s as a receiver. Like, you're going to get a little bit more athletic and get a little bit stronger and everything. He's good with his hands when he's getting pressed too. That's something I do like. Like, he doesn't get jammed all that much. Like, it does happen, but it happens to every receiver. But he's like, at the line of scrimmage, he's somewhat physical. And that's what I really like about Keon. Keon's one of my favorite players just in general. And maybe that's my bias of having him at 8. But I do think he's going to project well. And I do think he's a really good player. At 7, I have AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell is one of those guys where he's just really good. He's like Javon Baker, but he's just a little bit better. And I think he can make more spectacular catches than Javon, but he's also really good at creating separation. He's got a lot of speed. He's a do it all guy. He's a do it all guy that could actually be really successful. And I think has ceiling wise, he might be one of the best. Like at Georgia, you saw those glimpses where you're like, yeah, this kid could be something. And I think he will be something. Obviously, that's why I have him at number 7. And to be fair, I think this is one of the most loaded receivers classes we've had in a very long time. Like, I really like a lot of this guy. Even at the preseason, I was like, damn, dude, there's a lot of guys that I think are going to be really good. And you know what? It proven to be successful. Like, there's guys left off this list that I would really love to put on here, and I think still are going to be good NFL players. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of really good receivers in the NFL from this draft, and a lot might bloom later than, um, you know, if because they're not going to be given the opportunity. But I do think AD is one of those guys athletically that's going to be he's gonna be good. Like, I think there's I think there's a floor where you're, like, comfortable with playing with this kid because athletically, he's great. He's pretty good at catching. He can make those really difficult catches too, and that's what I really like about him. I loved him at Texas this year. I loved him at Georgia. I think he's one of my favorite guys in this draft, and he's going to impress. And I wouldn't be surprised if a team took him higher than where he projects. I think he's a really good kid. Yeah, I really do. I don't know the character concerns or anything with these guys. I haven't heard anything about any of these guys having character concerns. There's not a Micah Parsons or a Kayvon Thibodeau type of deal, but all these guys are really talented, and that's all I want to say. At number 6, Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette's very impressive and very good, and I think that he's going to be one of those flourishing guys. He runs routes very well. He's a very good deep threat. He plays above his size. He's not like 6'4", 6'5". He's like in the 6'1", 6'2" ish range, but he plays like he's 6'5". He plays like he's Calvin Johnson at 6'2". And that's something I really like. He's very aggressive going for the football. And the only thing that really concerns me about Legette is he has had some injury issues, which is a little concerning, but I think he's going to flourish very well. He's very, very impressive if you've seen him on tape, and he stands out. And he's one of the reasons why Spencer Rattler is going to be drafted at a decent pick is because of Xavier Legette and then Juice Wells, who is at Ole Miss. All right. At number 5, I have Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy is going to be a really good slot receiver, and he's going to be probably I don't know. I won't say anything. He's going to be a really good guy that you want him to be on your team because you don't want to line up against him. You don't want a DB matching up in the slot against him and man on the other side. He's wicked fast and he runs routes very fast. He's twitchy. He's not just a guy that's a straight line track runner. Like if you watch this guy play and watched his releases, he's very impressive. He did it a lot at Texas. Um, the only thing that really concerns me is his contested catch and his catch radius. Like his catch radius isn't amazing. You might have to scheme up some more things to get him open, especially against zone coverages. But if you can get this guy the ball in general, like screen passes, he's going to be really good. Short crossing routes, like he's going to be able to take because he's a really good open field runner. You can get him on intermediate stuff. You can't throw it to him deep. It's just, and we'll see how these hands progress. But I really do think this kid's going to be something special. I think he's got a really high ceiling, and that's something that I want to see. I want to see how his game translates to the NFL a little bit, but I think he's going to be successful. At number 4, Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas, he got overshadowed by Malik Neighbors, but he was damn near him statistically. Malik's just a little bit faster, but I still think Brian's really good. I mean, he still runs a 4.4. He's not the most technically sound route running wise, but he's still really good. He's a very good deep threat, very good jump ball guy who you're going to want to have. He's going to be a big body on the outside that you really want as a NFL coach, as an offensive coordinator. You want to coach this guy at receiver. And I think if you can get this guy to run better routes, he's just not super twitchy. He's not super twitchy. He's still good. He still can create separation. I'm not saying that he can't, but he's just not the most twitchy. But you still take him because you believe you can develop him and he can make a lot of catches. And that's very important because catching is the most important thing at the receiver position. You can't catch, you're not going to play receiver. You're going to go play tight end or go play DB. Uh, at number 3, well, maybe not in the NFL because that's really hard to translate, but you get what I'm saying. If he couldn't catch, he'd be playing. God, I don't even know what he'd be. If he put more weight on, he could be a tight end. All right. Anyways, that's besides the point. That's irrelevant. Number 3, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is one of those guys where I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid, he's the best separation creator in this draft. And he's very good at running routes, but his speed just also is off the charts. Like he looks as fast as Worthy when he runs routes and makes catches in the open field and makes plays. I really do believe that Jaden Daniels won a Heisman because of Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, and that those receivers are just above and beyond a lot of the receiving cores. The only receiving cores that really compared to that, I'd say, is Washington's. I'd say that. Um, but yeah, I think Neighbors is just the only thing is contested catching. He does drop the ball a little bit, as you'll see. If you go back and watch his tape specifically, he just has a little bit of problem in contested catching. But other than that, like his other stuff is just so impressive where it kind of cancels it out. Cause I don't think you're gonna be throwing him a lot of jump balls anyways. I just don't see him being used in that way. And if he needs to, he can make those catches at points. My number 2 guy, Rome Odunze. Rome is just really damn good at everything. Like, I'm not saying that just because I was very high on Washington going into the preseason. This is one of the kids that I was like, oh damn, like he's a stud. Like, I'm seriously impressed. And I don't really care what his combine was or any of this other outside playing in actual football game stuff is. This guy was the most damn impressive person on the field when Washington played and they got him the ball. Like, yes, they had Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan, and Michael Penix is a good thrower, but Michael Penix doesn't have the season he had if Rome Odunze is not on that team. That guy, good route runner. He was freaking returning. He was returning at some points throughout his career. He's a really good contested catch guy. He's good in the open field. I just I don't see how this guy isn't successful unless he just doesn't improve at all from college. This kid's really good. He is really good, and I am excited to see what he does in the NFL because I think he's going to be a damn good receiver, a damn good receiver. And then number 1, if you didn't know, is Marvin Harrison Jr. He's been the most impressive college football receiver for the past 2 seasons. They wish he could have went in 2023. God, I almost got my years mixed up. I almost said 2022. No, in 2023 they wish he could have went then. He would have been a really high receiver pick then. He was one of the most top-notch names coming into this year. He's just so impressive at everything. Athletically, he's really good. He's fast. He's built. He looks intimidating. He's got good height. Obviously, the catching's ridiculous. Good in the open field. Like, name something bad that Marvin Harrison does. And I don't see anything. I think he's really, really good at everything. I don't need to get super analytical with it. Like, you watch the tape, you watch him play on Saturdays, like, the name, you see him everywhere, whether it's on social media or on whatever college football show you're watching and hear about him. Like, every week, this guy was the talk. There's a reason why. There is a reason why. But that's gonna do it for the NFL draft wide receivers positions. Uh, if you want to leave a like, please do so. If you want to subscribe, please do so. And if you want more content on anything specifically, or want my breakdown on something, please let me know because I would be able to do that for you as well as, you know, talk about what you want me to talk about. I'm open to anything, college football or football related for the most part. But, we're going to be taking a lot of looks at teams going into next season after the spring transfer portal window closes because I'm not going to break down a team and then have to remake an episode because, X quarterback transferred out or X receiver transferred out. I want to see how this all breaks down before I really give my previews. Obviously, a spring game will be a big talking points as I'm going to do a lot of watching them recently. I haven't gotten to much. I've watched Clemson. I've watched NC State a little bit. I didn't get into them for the past weekend because I did some color commentary for some baseball, high school wise, in the local area. Um, but yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching everything college football related, but that's what the summer's for, man. We got a lot of time in the summer, got no job. Well, I mean, we do have jobs, but got a lot more time and a lot more freedom. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I got nothing else to say. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. And yeah, we will be back. I will probably make the defensive video or defensive podcast all in one. Just the guys I like, probably top five at edge, D linemen, linebackers, corners, and safety, or probably DBs. I think DBs is probably going to be categorically the most correct thing to do because I think there's some guys that can play safety or corner, especially nickel guys. So let me know. I will probably get that out to you. Let's see. Today is the what? The 15th. Probably have it to you by next Monday. And we're gonna ramp this up when the spring and I'll do a spring portal uh episode, like when it all closes. Like, who are some guys that really impressed me? What moves are really shocking? Some of the big stuff talk about headline wise. I probably won't get more into the individual breakdowns of teams until we get into our spring stuff. So, which I'm excited for that, man, because I do really want to cover a lot of these teams heading into next season. I can't wait to do Ohio State, Michigan, Miami. Cam Ward's been really impressive so far. Florida State, Bama. I've seen some good stuff about Bama and their quarterback room. Georgia, obviously, I know defensive line's a problem for them. Clemson, is Cade Klubnik really going to resurge this team back into that college football playoff? They got a lot of young players that are very good as well, and hopefully they don't get poached in the portal because Dabo Sweeney's not a fan of the portal. So, yeah. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for listening, watching. Once again, I'm going to annoy you guys about this. Like, subscribe, and share. All right. This is the Engage A podcast. This is Noah Drury, and we will see you on the other side.